Have you ever wondered how experts get their royal icing consistent and smooth and beautiful every single time? If you find yourself nodding your head yes, then this video is for you. I'm going to show you what you need to do to master royal icing so that you can get amazing results every single time. Let's get going. All right, grab that icing bag. Let me show you. So I've got some royal icing mixed up here, and this is mixed to stiff peaks. So when you're mixing royal icing, it can be easy to overmix, which means you'll end up with kind of crumbly icing once it dries. If you get too much air and it's super stiff and kind of hard to work with, that's not where you want to get to. You want to get to stiff peaks that hold their shape, but you can still easily, pick up some icing and throw it in a bowl and get the right consistency. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm taking some of this, I'm gonna put it over here. All right, so one of the other things you wanna make sure that you do is always cover your bowl so that it doesn't crust over, because that can mess with your consistency too. If you've got crusty pieces that have dried and some that hasn't, it can kind of mess with when you're mixing up the right consistency. So I'm gonna set that off to the side. I've got a little bit of royal icing here. I'd say have maybe a little more than, I'd put about 3/4 of a cup here. So if you've got your icing mixed up right from the beginning, which means you have stiff peaks that it's not overmixed, then you're starting off on the right foot. Now, you want to be able to control how much water you put in there. All right, so another tip to getting the right consistency is when you color your icing, make sure that all of your color is mixed in before you add any water. Now, the only time that you would ever go against this is when you're mixing up kind of deeper, darker colors and you want them to get really saturated. Sometimes adding a little bit of water to help that color develop is the way to go. But typically you're gonna wanna add your gel color and make sure that it's thoroughly mixed in there before you start adding any water. Because sometimes gel colors, depending on how thick or thin they are, can also mess with your consistency. And so you don't wanna get to the right consistency, then add your color and then it would be off, right? So I'm gonna add just a drop. I want maybe a little light lavender here, so I've got some purple, and I'm gonna grab my spatula from over here, and we're gonna mix this up. So sometimes what can happen too is if on your spatula, some of the color can get up on your spatula and then make it really streaky, or you think you've mixed it up and then you scrape off your spatula and oh no, you've got more color that needs to be mixed in. So just make sure that you thoroughly mix in your gel color, scrape the sides of the bowl, get that all nice and mixed in, and then we can start adding some water. But how do you know how much water to add? Well, we're gonna go a couple of drops at a time. And how do you know when you've reached the right consistency? So I like to compare regular items that we know and use every day to royal icing consistency. Let me show you. I have some toothpaste here, and you're probably wondering, why on earth do you have toothpaste right there? Well, let me tell you, toothpaste is pretty thick, and at least it's known to be thick. Like when you think of toothpaste, I've always thought of toothpaste as being pretty thick. So something that I like to compare to is, what if you grabbed some toothpaste, see how thick that is, okay? So it holds its shape really well. This is more of like a detail consistency, so I'm even gonna wipe it here. What does the toothpaste, how does it act? Like how thick is it really? If I left it sitting there, does it hold its shape? Does it settle into itself? What happens? So take a look at that. And then that's what we're going to attempt to make our royal icing to be our detail consistency. Now this straight out of the bowl and with some color mixed in is a really good, detail consistency by itself. It is still pretty thick though. So I'm gonna add probably about 4 to 5 drops. And you really don't wanna add more than that at a time when you're getting used to getting the right consistencies. So I'm gonna combine that water in. It's so crazy because a little bit of water can go a long way with your icing. So it's gonna be crazy here. I'm gonna put a little bit more toothpaste out here. Okay. Now I'm gonna test my icing. Is it acting the same? About the same. Yeah, it's about the same. That's a good detailed consistency then, okay? So I could take this, you could bag it up if that's the consistency you're looking for. If you're wanting to go a little bit thinner, so I would liken that to probably some yogurt, either regular yogurt or Greek yogurt. I've got some Greek yogurt right here. I'm gonna grab a spoon because I want a good piping or outline consistency, and it's really close to what yogurt is. So this yogurt actually, if it's straight out of the fridge, it's actually set up a tiny bit more. This has been sitting out for just a couple minutes, but this is a really good consistency to go from for just a piping consistency. Let me show you how to get that with our icing. So I had to clear off my toothpaste. Man, you don't want to get that mixed up with your regular icing. You're gonna have a really minty blast if you mix up those two. Okay, let's put a little bit of yogurt down. Okay, so we can kind of see how that acts if it's just sitting right there, either on the counter or your work surface. Now we want to get this consistency to be the same as that, so we're gonna have to add some water. So I just added about 5 drops. So if you've done royal icing before and you still find yourself watching this video, slow down, go little by little and just get a refresher on how that royal icing acts and how it feels when you mix it up. Like, it might sound crazy, but you kind of have to connect with the icing and it'll tell you when it's ready. All right, it's still pretty thick. So we're gonna add more. I'm actually gonna add, I think I added maybe 7 or 8 drops of water. All right, we're gonna go further. All right, I'm gonna test it. Let's see what that's like. Not quite, it might look the same, but this yogurt, here, still a little bit looser. The yogurt's looser than this, so we're gonna add some more water. Seriously, this comparison is like one of the best ways to really understand what your consistency should be like, because people talk about 30-second royal icing, 60-second royal icing, and that's usually referring to how long it takes for the icing to settle out. But I'm visual, and maybe you are too, and which is probably why you're watching this video, because you're visual and you want to learn visually like how to tell if you're getting the right consistency and some tips on how to get there. So we're almost there, I'd say I'm gonna add another few drops. That's looking like it's just about there. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit. So there we go. So now we just matched it. So we matched the consistency to our yogurt, which is gonna be a really good like piping or outline consistency. There's one more consistency I wanna show you, and I've got another tip on how to get a really good flood consistency and not go too thin, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say it's too thin, or they don't realize their flood is too thin until they come with issues and have questions about why do I have craters? Why is it not holding up like it's supposed to? So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about that and show you how to get a really good flood consistency. But before that, I have to tell you this. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to amaze your friends and family with the most awesome looking cookies they've ever seen, you're in the right place, because this is the channel where deliciousness meets joy. And we're all about having fun with cookies here too. We'll show you how to make cookies that look impressive, but of course are easy to make. So please do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode, and share this channel with your friends and family who love to bake and who love to decorate. It really helps out a lot. All right, thank you so much again, and let's get back to the video. I'm gonna clean this up because we're going to talk about honey. Honey is awesome, and it's a really good way to compare your royal icing to the consistency of honey. So I tell my cookie students a lot, you can have cold honey or regular room temperature honey. Both of those floods are gonna serve you well, but we're gonna talk about just regular, room temperature honey. This is room temperature honey. So put a little bit in a bowl. I'm not gonna put it on my mat because I wanna compare to what it looks like right here. So this is gonna fall on itself and it's gonna settle into itself all on its own over, we were talking about the 15, 30, 60-second floods, right? So this would technically be about a 15 to 30-second flood, meaning that if you just dolloped it in a bowl like this, then it's gonna take that long to settle out. Maybe more on the 15-second side. If you had cold honey, it's gonna be more on like the 30 to 60. But let's get our icing there now. So we have a ways to go. I'm actually gonna put in about a teaspoon. And again, if you are newer to this, just do 5-ish drops at a time. It's gonna get you a little more familiar with how the water really affects the icing. And it's also gonna depend on how thick your icing was when you started too, right? Okay, so this is starting to become a flood where it's starting to settle into itself and not hold its shape. I'm adding 5 more drops. All right, it's not quite settling in like the honey did, so it's gonna need some more. And we're just gonna keep adding a little bit of water at a time and incorporating it until we get some honey. You see that? So I like to just let it fall on itself and see what it does. Ooh, this one's getting good. It's getting good. This would need a little bit of a shake to settle out, which is awesome. It's a good consistency, but it's not the honey, and we're trying to match the honey. All right, just a little bit more water. I bet this is just about it. Oh, there we go. That last 5 drops, I'm telling you, just got it right over the threshold and just exactly where it needed to be. Okay, see, watch this. Okay, so that's settling in. Now watch the honey. There we go. Okay, so the honey's probably technically a tiny bit faster at settling. Like this could, I would say you could add a couple more drops, but considering that we know that royal icing can separate and it will start to separate before you actually put it on your cookie. And honestly, once you put it in your bag, even within an hour, it's gonna separate just a little bit and thin out. So I'm gonna have it be right here. In fact, that's another thing that I want you to remember is your royal icing, as soon as you put it in the bag and sit it on the counter, ready to decorate your cookies, it's going to start separating a tiny bit and starting to thin out. So keep that in mind when you're mixing it up. I want this to end up like honey consistency on the cookie. So in order to do that, it's okay if in the bowl, it's like a tiny bit thicker, because by the time it gets on your cookie, it's gonna be like that honey. And I would say too, I wouldn't go any thinner on a flood than this. I would not go any thinner than honey, than room temperature honey. Anything thinner than this, you're gonna end up with craters and tons of air bubbles and just a lot of problems. So that's my recommendation. And there we go. Okay, let me know which of these tips is your favorite in the comments, and don't forget to practice. Practice, mix up some icing, get out your water, go grab yogurt and toothpaste and honey and do some comparisons and see what you come up with. I'll see you in the next video. Would you love to start making your very own professional looking, super fun decorated cookies in your own home in just the time that it takes you to fold laundry or run an errand? If you're thinking yes, then let me invite you to join me in Lollys Cookie Camp. It's a 5-part workshop series that gives you insider secrets to professional cookie decorating. Your cookies will become the star of the party. They're gonna become the talk of the town and the perfect gift for any occasion. I often say that cookies can change lives. Well, they certainly changed mine, and I can't help but share some of that magic with you. So if you feel like it's time to level up your cookie decorating skills, then it's so easy. Just go to the link in the video description, pop in your details, sign up, and let's get decorating.